In this video, I'm going to show you how to get your first chin up with some unconventional moves. Also, I will teach you how to stop spinning. Make sure you are subscribed, you have notifications turned on, and you check out this channel anytime you want some helpful tips and tricks for your nutrition and training. If you are really interested in getting your first chin up or pull up, you can click the link below, grab my ultimate chin up guide. It even has a 4-week step-by-step program to help you get your first chin up, all programmed out for you. So, what are you waiting for? I'm just going to let you know I am using gymnastic rings to demonstrate most of the movements today. If you don't have a pair, I think they are a great piece of equipment that anyone could have, or you don't have to use these all together. But I am going to say that is why I'm using them. I just think they're a great piece of equipment. This is not sponsored whatsoever. These are a pair of Rogue, I don't even know, gymnastic rings that I got maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And as you can see, they are still holding up. Before we dive in, let's get into a little minutia. Now there are chin-ups and there are pull-ups. Pull-ups are when your palms are facing forward. Chin-ups are when your palms are facing you. The pull-up will place more stress on your shoulders. It can be more difficult for certain individuals. So I tend to have most people work on the chin up first. I think from a risk reward standpoint, most individuals could just benefit from a smooth, steady chin up. I do this because I'm probably going to use the term pull up interchangeably throughout this video. It's just a force of habit because you are literally pulling your body up. So just letting you know, chin up is what we're working towards. People will have individuals use resistance bands while they are working on their first pull-up. And I actually really love resistance band, but there are more than enough videos here walking you through how to use one of those. This is going to focus on us just using our body weight, a set of rings or a suspension trainer, and a pull-up bar. That's all we're going to use. So if you're asking me, where are the resistance bands? Don't worry about it. You don't need it. Let's keep going. The first thing that people usually mess up while they are working towards their first pull-up or chin-up is what their body is doing from the beginning. I can demonstrate using this. A lot of people will oftentimes start their pull-up by having some sort of huge arch and then doing something funky, right? Or just rushing through it to get to the top. Or maybe they're swinging their body and they're kipping themselves up. We are really working towards is a strict pull. A strict pull. And where does that start? That actually starts in what we can call the pulling prep. Simply allows you to move your shoulder blades. That's what's missing from a lot of these movements. It allows us to move the shoulder blades and also to find the hollow position. Now my feet are close to the floor for this, so I'm not going to be able to technically have my feet hanging down there so you can see it. So we're going to imagine that my full body is hanging. If I am hanging in this position, right, I'm kind of dead hanging right now. I'm not being super active. But what we don't want to see is we don't want our body arched. That's what a lot of people will do at the bottom. Sometimes they'll cross their leg. If I do it this way, they'll cross their legs. Maybe they'll just be here. And what we actually have going on is that you're not being active, right? You're just truly in a dead hang. And that makes it so much harder to pull yourself up, right? If we are pulling ourselves up, what we need to be is tighter. Tighter is going to be lighter. The more tight, the more tension, the more hollow we can be in our position, the easier it's going to become to pull ourselves up. So squeezing my legs together, that's number one. Number two is I want to make sure that I pull the ribs down towards my hips. So this is more of an arched position. What we're going to focus on is pulling our belly button towards our spine. And we can already see there's a huge difference here. I'll show it from the side. We want to make sure that we pull our belly button towards our spine. It's almost as if we are squeezing our butt together. That's step number one. For your dead hang, any sort of hang you're going to do, make sure that we find that hollow position. Two of the pulling prep is to actually perform the pulling prep. Some people might call it an active hang. I like to call it a pulling prep because we're actually going to practice going up and down. So if I'm in this dead hang position, you'll see what my shoulder blades are doing. Right now, they're swooping up. See how they're moving towards my ears? Now what I want to do from here is I want to pull them down towards my back pocket. I'm having that shoulder blade come down. The way to do that, you want to make sure that the arms are completely straight. We don't want to bend. because all that's doing is you're bending almost like you're going to pull up. Keep arms straight. Pull those shoulder blades down. Pull them down. And again, like I said, you don't want to be doing it so much that you come up into this arch position. What you want is to keep those shoulder blades pulled down and the arms straight. And it's a very small range of motion. If you look at it, my chest isn't coming up. Small range of motion and down. Now what you could do is you could easily try to do, say 5 to 10 reps. You don't want to do too many of these because you don't want to really burn out before you get to the rest of the work. So I would maybe put pulling prep at the beginning of a session in your movement prep work. On the reverse row chin up, you're going to want to make sure that you have your ring set at hip height. Your hip height, not my hip height, not someone else's, your hip height. If you don't have access to this, what you can actually do is perform the reverse row sit back using a bar. So if you have a barbell in a squat rack, you have a Smith machine, set the bar at hip height. The only difference is you are going to hold that bar while underneath it, holding with the palms facing you. That's the only difference. You're not going to have to twist the rings at all because there are no rings. Just keep that in mind in case you don't have access to rings, but you want to give it a try. Set up directly underneath the bar, so pull with rings neutral. You don't want to pull with rings facing forward. Again, turn so the palms are faced in. Keep the hips up high. Perform a row, reverse row. Make sure that those elbows aren't in a weird position, that the shoulders aren't rolled. Perform that reverse row. Turn the rings in. Pull your chest towards the rings, and then sit your butt back. Sitting your butt back is probably the most important part, because if we're not sitting back, we're not actually going to get into that tall stacked position. Elbows are pulling down, right? In a chin up or pull up, elbows pull down, down. Pause for a second, then bring the hips up. Turn the rings neutral and come down. That's one repetition, but it is one of the most beneficial movements. I highly suggest having it in your program. Switch it in, try it. You're going to have a hard time with it the first time. That's okay. A couple key factors here though. So we'll pull ourselves up, come in. If you're having a hard time and this is your sticking point, instead of doing full reps, what I actually recommend is pulling the elbows down and practice just sit backs. This sit back can make a world of difference. And it's a lot easier on your elbows than doing isometrics, like a jump and holding yourself at the top like a flexed arm hang. It's a lot easier and more forgiving on the elbows. Another one of my favorites that are really nice to do, and again, you can use a Smith machine or rings if you have access to them, is the assisted pull to negative. So the assisted pull to negative is pretty much what it sounds like. You're going to take as much of your weight as you possibly can, but keep your feet on the ground for some extra assistance. And from here, you'll pull the elbows down, perform your pulling prep. Keep pulling the elbows down. Once you get to the top as high as you can, pause. And then as you lower, as slow as you can, let the toes graze the ground as you lower. This is for some added assistance. And then come all the way down. Then you'll reset. So again, toes are on the ground, just there for assistance. Pull the elbows down. Keep pulling down, keep those ribs pulled down, get to the top, turn in, pause. Then begin to slowly lower and let your toes graze the ground. Let them slide away. Boom. What you're effectively doing with this variation is you're taking as much of your weight as you possibly can and trying to slow down as much as possible. By focusing on negatives, you can actually build up enough strength to have a positive. So using your feet for the concentric portion makes a huge difference. And as you lower, just gliding your foot across the ground forces you to have to control yourself as much as possible. In essence, like if you were performing chin-ups using the chin-up machine, you're not actually taking as much of your weight as you possibly can. And effectively, if you have too much weight on there, you're not really going to be building that negative portion. So one more time, from the bottom, have those toes on the ground, squeeze those elbows together, pull down for your pulling prep, pull yourself up, turn the rings in at the top, pause, then slowly lower, keeping those elbows in. Let the toes drag across the ground. Come down to that bottom position, and then the most important part I almost forgot, perform a pulling prep. So those are my top 3 movements to work towards your first chin up. Now, believe it or not, my full article, which again, you can click and get that chin up guide, has a ton of progressions that you can check out. But those 3, I think, are really bang for your buck movements. They're all gonna move you towards, in a progressive overload manner, to be able to get your first full chin up. Now, what if you don't have access to a pull-up bar or a chin-up bar? What if you are in a larger body and it is too hard for you to perform the chin-up right now? Well, you can get all the benefits from performing different row variations, right? Our main concern is that we are building a strong, resilient back. So do you necessarily need a chin-up or a pull-up in your program? No, not if it doesn't fit your body where you currently are right now. So what I would suggest is focusing on lat pull-downs and lat pull-down variations. The lat pull-down in and of itself, while it is not the chin-up or the pull-up, it does mimic the movement and does have several benefits or carryovers. So single arm variations of the lat pull-down and the lat pull-down in and of itself is a great thing to have within your program so that you can actually start to work that same movement pattern. Everyone is going to be at a different level. You might use bands, you might use the rings, you might use the lat pull-down machine. Whatever it is, you are developing your pulling muscles, and that is important. If you were truly focused on the chin-up or the pull-up, and that is the main skill you want to develop, I am of the belief that you should go with that first. That should be the first thing you are trying to tackle in your training session. How many days per week? I would say 2 to 3, at least 2 to 3 sessions per week. Have that be the main focus at the beginning of your session. If you try to incorporate that towards the end of your session, you'll probably find that you're a little too burnt out and quality is not going to be there. So I would recommend putting your pulling work for the pull-up or the chin-up at the start of your session and then program around it, right? So in the programming that is detailed in that guide that you can click and get your copy of and read, you'll see that it is literally written around the idea of your main focus only to get your chin up or pull up. There is nothing wrong with having a specialization phase within your programming. That's how you can get better at something. If we are more specific and focused on one thing at a time, you'll get better. Does that mean you should ignore all pushing and lower body work altogether? No. What it means is that you should just make sure that the pull-up work is at the start of your session, and then you can go on to any other sorts of work that you want to be doing. I will say that pulling is very taxing on your grip, so you're gonna want to make sure that you're not programming your pull-up work after things like deadlifts or farmer walks, and you're gonna want to make sure that you're stretching your wrists and your forearms when you are working towards that particular movement, because again, it's important. One of my favorite ways to work on improving your chin-up or your pull-up is something called the grease the groove method. It literally means you would perform many pull-ups or many chin-ups throughout the day at whatever progression allows you to get, like, let's say between 5 to 6 attempts. Now, does that mean you'll necessarily be performing the full chin-up if you can't do it? No. You might do something like the reverse row sit back or reverse rows or a bent over row. Depends on where you are. But the idea implies that anytime, let's say I would leave the gym or the office, if I was to walk by my pull-up bar or walk under the door that has it, I would bang out between like 5 to 6 reps, right? It should be a number for me that I can perform them with smooth quality and not really feel form break down, and have adequate enough rest time between attempts, like between sets, where I accumulate throughout the day. When you have this sort of practice, you will increase your proficiency with the movement. You'll get stronger, but you're not going to run the risk of burning yourself down, right? Because you have enough space throughout the day. Think of it this way. You walk up and down the stairs a bunch of times during the day. Your quads technically are performing hundreds of reps of lunges, but it doesn't feel that way at the end of the day. So that's just another way to look at it. So look, I hope you found this video to be informative, to be helpful. Remember, make sure that you are subscribed, you have notifications turned on, you are leaving a comment below, giving a thumbs up, all that jazz, because it's going to be pretty helpful for you to know when my next video comes out. And again, you can grab that guide below. Make sure you click, get it, follow the programming in there, and I guarantee you will get your first chin up. It will take time, it will take practice, but I promise you, you will be glad that you did it. And without further ado, just remember, you're one day away from getting back on track and one day away from realizing how fucking amazing you are.